This is GB Camper Conversion's latest van tour of the new Shape Vauxhall Vivaro. It is a medium wheelbase. I do believe that Peugeot and Citroën also do the same vehicle, which is the Citroën Dispatch and the Peugeot Expert. So this conversion can be done on either of those three vehicles. And we're just starting on the outside. So it's a nice van anyway, you know, it's got a nice spec inside. It's got your alloy wheels on there. But what we did, so we had it as a panel van, apart from the roof. So we put the windows in. We've gone for privacy glass windows, or the customer's gone for privacy glass windows all around. And that's with opening windows on the side loading doors. I say doors because this particular model's got two side loading doors and the barn doors on the back. Yeah, same on the driver's side then. So we didn't cut the hole out for the very rear side window. We just blanked that off on the panel and then we put the window on the outside just so that it matches everywhere else. Just makes it look nice and even all the way around. Again, at the back there is the mains electrical inlet. We've stuck with the black, so we're keeping along the silver and black theme. Obviously the roof's black, so is the canvas. Windows are nice and dark, and then the electrical inlet. And the only other thing on the outside, just underneath the van, is the waste outlet. Customer didn't want the waste inside, which is absolutely fine, so we just pop a little Dometic waste outlet there, and that can be collected in a waste container, which is quite nice, I suppose, because then you don't get any unwanted smells inside the van, and then it frees up that little bit of storage anyway. So we'll have a look inside and see what we've done. Now these internally are slightly narrower than the Volkswagen and the Transit Custom. Same in length, same length as a short wheelbase Volkswagen and Ford Transit Custom, but just a little bit narrower. So there was a few requests from the customer, and this was on the theme of the colours. So a nice neutral colour in the grey, and obviously on the seat there you can see there's a couple of different shades of grey and two different types of material. So there's actual material on the seat pads there with a diamond stitching, and then a vinyl on the front and on the outsides, but a two-tone vinyl, a light grey and a dark grey, which sets it off really nicely. Now this is, again, this was a preference from the customer, that it was an M1 tested rock and roll bed. So that's what we got for them, installed it. Now moving on to the equipment that's in this one. Over on that back wall is the control panel. Now I'm going to just step in. We're on leisure battery at the moment, so that's telling us the voltage. Obviously the solar panel is putting some charge into the battery because it's quite a nice day today. But we've got our switches. You've got your first one, which is pump, which is self-explanatory really, because it will start the pump when we use the tap, because it is on a micro switch. Then you've got your lights. As long as that's down, we've got three different lights, or three different light switches for three different areas of the van. And then you've got auxiliary. So for the auxiliary, we use it for the ignition on the hob, and then the 12 volt sockets that we've popped in. So that is, there's two banks of USBs, or two twin banks of USBs, and then the 12 volt power socket. most things these days tend to run on USB, so we thought we'd double up on those rather than the actual what we call the cigarette lighter socket, I suppose. But yeah, on the lights side then, so we've got a light under the cabinet, and that's just on that switch there. So this will light up this bit of an area. Over on the other side, we have another switch, and then that gives us lighting in the pelmet above. So we put 3 spotlights up there. And then finally, the last light is above the kitchen unit. So that gives that area a nice bit of light to work from as well. There are lights in the pop top if anybody is up there sleeping. There's 2 flexible LEDs. I'm not quite sure, you might be able to see them. I shall pop one on. So they're reading lights, and they're on a flexible arm, which is a nice little touch as well if you're up there. And they're touch sensitive, and they just lie down out the way when the roof's down, so they don't get in the way. Yeah, so you know, we had a discussion with the customer about the layout that we sort of advised to put in this. Now, obviously, like I say, because it's quite a narrow van, and the seat being the width that it is, didn't leave us a lot of room for storage and the equipment, but I think we've used it. We've maximised every square millimetre in this van to get what we have in here. So just again at the back, we don't put a wardrobe on top. I mean, as you can see, between there and the top of the, or the underneath of the pelmet and the top of the work surface, we could put a wardrobe on there, but you then lose your access to this just because there's no way of getting into it, because obviously we can't put a door on there, and if we put a lift up hatch on with a wardrobe, then you can't get into it. So we advise that work surface can be a bit more useful than having storage for a wardrobe. You know, when you think about, you know, if we've got a 2-burner hob and there's 2 people going to be using this van more often than not, sometimes there's going to be 4. I believe they are going to take an awning, but you can still sleep 2 upstairs and you can travel 5 because they've got the 3 front seats. But yeah, if you're preparing food, for instance, on your hob, you can put your plates, or maybe if you've got, I don't know, if you want to be cooking some other kind of things, bit of meat, bit of vegetable, or whatever, it's just somewhere else to put stuff. Obviously with that space all taken up by a wardrobe, it doesn't really leave you much place for anything else. You could pop it on the glass lid of the sink, but then if you want to use the glass lid of the sink, you've got the glass lid, sorry, the sink itself, you've got to take it all off and move it somewhere else. So it's just, you know, after the discussion with the customer, they preferred this particular layout, and then that does allow us to put a lift up hatch in there, and that is the full length of this bit of storage, and it's as deep as what you'd get here anyway, so you're not actually losing anything because you can get access to this down here now. Nice big hatch, you can go right to the back, you can get over the top, and then underneath that, so there is another compartment, but that's where all the electrical items live. So we have the leisure battery. You probably can't see, but there's a consumer unit down there. There's a transformer charger, the bank of fuses, and the solar panel controller. So that's all out the way, and you can still get access to it very easily. It's just a case of lift that up. Obviously, when you get on site, the first thing that you do when you put your mains lead in is turn your consumer units on anyway. So you don't need to go back down there, but it's easy enough to get to anyway. And then just above the worktop, we've popped in a set of almost like upper lockers, but without any doors, just to get the doors on there. It's quite tight with the hinges that we use, but that's a nice little 3 access pockets. Again, a little bit of valuable storage. You can still lift the lid up, it's not catching on there, that's absolutely fine. I would probably suggest that when you get on site, you fill these up rather than actually filling them up. Unless it's soft items you're going to put in there, then they'll be absolutely fine. So that's this part of the worktop. Well, actually, also there are two 40-volt sockets, one on the above the worktop and one on the side of the unit, because we do have a dining table that goes here. So you've got two power points again. Over this side, on the passenger side in the rear. So we did put the window just so they had an extra sort of viewing point from out the window. And we've put a curtain rail on, we've put a carpeted board up, and then, you know, on the night time, obviously, you just shut your curtains. Now, what's quite interesting with the curtains on this one, I will just explain briefly. Because it's a new model of vehicle, there isn't much out there in the way of accessories that already fit the Vauxhall Vivaro. As you may or may not be aware, there's absolutely plenty on the market for Volkswagen T5, T6s, and, you know, even older models as well. And there's starting to come through quite a few for the Transit Custom. Not anything particular for this model yet. So the curtains that I've fitted in here are actually for the Volkswagen. Now, because it's soft aluminium, they can be sort of manipulated slightly to be bent more, or even trim them down so that they fit nicely around the side loading door, this rear window, and then the two barn doors as well. So the front unit then, like I say, it's got twin side loading doors. So this was a bit of a challenge, because when the panel normally ends here, we haven't got to contend with anything that's down there. But because that door needs to be opened for access to the other side of this unit, it become a little bit tricky, but we managed to get round it. We couldn't get the combination hob and sink. We managed to get, or we had no choice really, but to put in individual units. So we've got the twin burner, electronic ignition, small and the large, which again is quite nice. And then the sink as well, the separate sink. And I think it's actually probably, from my opinion anyway, it looks a bit better having the two separate units. You got your fold-up tap, pivots round, and that's on a micro switch again. So when you've finished using it, just pivot it back round, pivot it round, down, job done, finished. But I think being individual, they look quite nice. They've actually set it off quite well. So that was pleasing. Now, again, with the fridge, because of the width of the seat that we ended up having, I'll explain a little bit more as I go around the back, but the fridge, we normally like to put a 50 litre in any T5s, T6s, Transit Customs, because it will fit in there quite comfortably. Having that little bit of extra width of the van makes such a difference. So we went for the 39 litre fridge, you know, and it works in exactly the same way. 10 litres in capacity. There's a lot that you can get in here. So you've got your door compartment still. You'll still get a bottle of milk in there, your cans of pop, small bottles of pop. You have an ice box as well. And you do get the ice cube tray. And then the power controls and the thermostat is down in the corner. So it's on a dial, you turn it around to what you need, and away you go. You have got the one shelf, but you can put stuff on the bottom, on that step up, or on the shelf as well. So, nice little fridge. And then we've got the pull-out drawer. It's quite wide, as deep as the unit. You know, again, somewhere to put your cutlery, you know, your knives, forks, spoons, that kind of thing. And then we've got a decent amount of floor space in front of us. So we fitted an Altro flooring. It's quite hard wearing stuff. And it's got a nice little sparkle to it when you catch it in the right light. So, you know, if you like that kind of thing, Altro flooring, they do it with and without. So that's the inside of the van. Now we have got this seat. This is the first time I've used this company for rock and roll beds. Excuse me. They're jack conversion kits based up in Scotland. Now, I had a conversation with them and they were extremely helpful. Very. Can't speak highly enough about the customer service was fantastic. Price was absolutely spot on as well. For what you get for an M1 tested seat in this style of upholstery, you can have pretty much any colour that you sort of ask for. You know, the extra piping around the outside, the different colour material. It's ever so nice and padded. It's really, really nice. And it works an absolute treat as well. So I shall definitely be using these again. So we're round the back. This has got barn doors instead of the lift up tailgate. Like we've already said, we've popped the privacy glass windows on there. And with it being the traditional sort of rock and roll bed setup and the furniture down one side, this is what you get now. It's just the rock and roll bed, it's the back of it. That's the rest of the unit. As you can see, it's quite slim as it works its way down there, but you can still get underneath here through that lift up hatch. Now, I was on about the curtains earlier. Now, the curtains for the side windows are for the Volkswagen, but the back doors are for the Transit Custom. So the profile is pretty much the same. I just had to take a little bit off, and then you get the flat bar, which it just fits straight on. And it's the same on the other side. But once you've got your press studs on there, and these are like two-way curtains, so you've got black on the outside and grey on the inside, you can't see anything in when they're fitted. Just move it across a bit. But yeah, so again, if you're looking for curtains on this particular van, I would imagine these vans are going to get quite popular as time goes by. I think the old Vivaro and Renault Traffic are quite popular anyway for people to do conversions on. This will also be the same. So if you're looking for bits and bobs, the Transit Custom rear curtains for the barn doors will fit with a little bit of tweaking. Now we've got the dining table, which I'll set up, and then behind that, again, this was just for extra storage. We put a door on the back that you can lift up, and then you've got the whole of the underneath of that seat for extra storage, which is pretty valuable, really. Especially if you are taking the drive away awning. You know, you can throw some bedding under there, some little bags for you know, the stuff you might be wearing when you go away. So yeah, ideal to have that little bit of extra storage. I'm just going to pop this table on here. So we pop it on the rail. And it can be moved back and forth. The idea is, I believe, that in the future, when there's been a swivel plate made for the twin front seat, I believe that they're going to look at getting that fitted. So hence why I made the rail go all the way down to the end of the unit, because this can then be slid down, and then you can use it if you sat on the front seat and it's spun around. So that's the dining position. The other door on the other side, we'll go and have a look at and show you what we've got around the other side. So this is the driver's side loading door. There's no access into the vehicle, but what we have got is obviously you've got the back of the hob and sink. Now, as you'd have noticed on the front, there was no door on the front of this unit, and that bed is that close to this unit. As it comes down, even putting a door on the outside, it would have probably clashed with it. But again, this was already a request from the customer anyway, and that was to get access to the water and the gas bottle from out of this side. So that's what we did. And the reason it steps in like that is there's a rubber stopper that's built in to the internal door. And obviously as this door comes here, this rubber buffer ends up sitting in this slot and moving across there. So had we made the unit this full depth, well, we wouldn't have been able to shut the door. So this was another reason why we ended up fitting the single sink and the single hob, because the combination unit is the same width all the way down, or it does taper in slightly depending on which model you're using, but we just thought we'll go for a single sink. We can then choose a narrower sink, and then we can actually get it in its housing in here and still make use of underneath. So we've got the gas bottle strap, you've got your fresh container. Now it is sealed because obviously we've got your gas nozzle there as well, directly to the hob. So you've got your gas drop hole. It's sealed around there as well, just so that it sort of conforms to any standards. Gas drop hole, sealed unit, 50mm drop on the bottom of the door. And that's the storage unit for there. Again, they asked for soft close hinges rather than the ones that just slam shut. So yeah, the waste outlet is down in the bottom, which we've already pointed out. So when you're changing your fresh, you can empty your waste at the same time. It's all in the same area. Yeah, and I think it's turned out really, really nice. The colours are really nice as well. They've gone for the driftwood on the carcasses of the furniture. A grey worktop, sticking with the grey theme on the floor. Again, just different shades of grey, and they all set each other off really, really nicely. And then mix it in with the driftwood. Yeah, it's a really nice finish. So all I need to show you now is the rock and roll bed. Yeah, I'll start setting it up. Yeah, so the rock and roll bed operation, nice and simple. There's a lever on the front there. You can get access through that hole. If we just slide it around and start to pull on the opening. Now what I tend to do with these is just, there's a strap there to pull it, to get it back up, or you can keep hold of the seat belts. If you just pull them slightly to take the tension off, then it comes freely towards you, rather than letting the belts get the tension. And then obviously when you want to use it as the bed, you don't want them poking in you, just slide them down. I mean, you can see how close we are to the unit there. But these are 1800 long, just your standard size of your rock and roll bed. 1140, I believe, that's including the seat belts. So you have to take that into consideration if you're going to do this. Yeah, and you can get to all your curtains while your bed's down. Shut the curtains on the back door, your side loading doors, and then you can still, you can get access to your hatch still. Your control panel, your lighting. Now the only thing that you can't, and this didn't really make any difference anyway, so I know that on some of the, like your T5s and your Transit Customs, the bed can go slightly further back. Now it might just be that it's this particular design that when you fold it back up as the chair, although it's right at the back, when it comes down as a bed it comes forward slightly. So it's away from the back door there, which is fine because it doesn't make any difference to the length. But even if we was to put the fridge here, there's just simply not enough room for a fridge. So again, with the depth of the fridge, if we'd have put it here, we'd have had that rubber stopper on the side loading door to contend with, so we couldn't have gone any further that way. So the only place really to put it ended up being under the hob, because that was the free space even when the door was shut. So that's why it's there. You can't get access to it during the night. It's not the end of the world. Like I say, this has got the two side opening windows and their rear to front opening windows. Got a little catch, just push it in. Allows a nice little bit of fresh air in. And we've got the same on the other side loading door as well, on the passenger side. So yeah, I mean, you know, we always say that a well insulated van, you know, and as long as it's got good insulation, you've got carpeted sides on the rear. We do with the lower panels on the doors. That's the back doors and the side doors. And then you've got your thermal curtains. So it gets quite warm in here. So to have that bit of extra ventilation, I mean, normally we have one over this side with the cooker anyway. You know, it's probably a safe bet to have some ventilation over there, definitely, seeing as you haven't got any skylights in the roof. And then to have the one on the passenger side as well just allows that nice breeze to flow on through. So yeah, new Shape Vauxhall Vivaro. It'd be interesting to see any more that come on the market, but this just gives you an idea of what you can put in one. You can still get the same layout, your traditional layout that is, with the rock and roll bed and the furniture down one side. You can still get your hob, your sink and your fridge, your electrical packages, your 12 volt, your 240, fair amount of storage. Yeah, so new Shape Vauxhall Vivaro, Peugeot Expert and Citroen Dispatch, I believe. I think there's a long wheelbase version they do of all three as well. I would imagine they're going to be the same kind of width, so all you're going to gain is probably extra storage, unless you can shove this seat back, and then you might get away with popping the fridge at the front. But yeah, I'm really chuffed with how it's turned out. With GB Camper Conversions, based in Tamworth. You can like and subscribe to the video if you want to. You can hit the notifications button, that'll tell you when we pop another video on. And it won't be long until we're doing the next one. But thanks for watching this one, and we'll see you again.